Pardon me while I have a strange interlude.
There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art.
Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and this week's episode is brought to you by Iron Spikes. They're a good way to handle all kinds of fae and weird entities if they come near you, because they really just don't like iron. So if you're going to have to deal with anything like a leprechaun, an iron spike, you could do worse than that, although the rules of what hurts a leprechaun are pretty unclear. Iron spike seems like a pretty good way to go. So get yourself an iron spike. You could do a lot worse. Because tonight on the show, we're going to be talking a whole lot of Leprechaun. It's a third time's the charm episode in which we look at the third movie in a franchise, and tonight's movie is Leprechaun 3. Now, there's a little backstory to this one because our guest tonight is in a Discord with me, and this might be a good opportunity to mention that there is a Discord for this show, and it doesn't cost anything to get in. So if you ask me nicely, I'll let you in. There's lots of cool people in there. But over St. Patrick's Day weekend, we were discussing Leprechaun, and I was watching Leprechaun 3, and I brought up the concept of the Leprechaunathon, which is watching all of the Leprechaun movies. And I didn't think anybody would actually do it, but tonight's guest did. He won the Leprechaunathon. And not only that, before the show, he told me that he rewatched Leprechaun 3 and 4. So he's really outdone himself. Today's guest is a UFO researcher. You can see him post all kinds of great on this day UFO tidbits on Blue Sky and the artist formerly known as Twitter social media page, and on Facebook. He's all over with the UFO stuff. He is a proud goose custodian and a all-around great guy, and one of the people in the Ufo Sunset YouTube channel. Welcome to the show, Jeff Knox. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, glad to be here. I've done my Leprechaunathon research, thorough research.
You won the Leprechaunathon, man. Like
Right.
again, you really outdid yourself. You went above and beyond for leprechauns.
They said it couldn't be done, and I just had to prove them wrong that you could watch them all. So I did it.
Yeah, the only one you didn't watch was the one that's not actually a Leprechaun movie, but it does have Warwick Davis playing a leprechaun.
Yeah,
The children's movie, The Unlucky Leprechaun, it's called.
yeah. He still has the same name, Lucky, I think, but it's a family movie, children's movie. Yeah.
Well, okay, that's one inconsistency already with the Leprechaun movies. Is like his name is Lucky, because I mean, when I kept looking up the synopses for this, it kept saying his name was like Dubbin or something like that. Dubbin. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, did they ever use his name in the movie? Like, I don't recall that happening.
I'm not sure in the third one, I don't recall them actually directly mentioning a name.
Right.
I'm pretty sure they use the name Lucky in some of the other ones, though. I seem to recall they call him Lucky in some of the other ones. But couldn't tell you which ones, but yeah.
Well, I
Sure.
did read somewhere that the guy that came up with the whole Leprechaun franchise, like the creator of it, Mark Jones, I guess his name is. I did read like a factoid somewhere, and I'm not sure if this is true, but it seems like it is. That he based the idea of doing like a horror comedy series on the Lucky Charms Leprechaun. So
So the whole series is based on a Lucky Charms leprechaun?
Yeah, it was like, what if the leprechaun from the cereal commercials that is just trying to get his Lucky Charms back was actually killing people for it?
And hey, inspiration strikes in weird places. That's genius. Yeah. Hey.
It really is.
And they made a whole series of films out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess they just call him like he's just listed as Leprechaun, like on IMDb for like a lot of these movies. They don't actually give
Well,
him.
right. But if
Yeah,
you look on Wikipedia, I'm going to look right now, but if you look at the plot, I think it says, oh, the leprechaun Lubden or Lubden. And like the plot synopses for like all these movies, it's like the leprechaun Lubden, and I'm just like, nobody ever calls him by his name.
I literally
So,
don't remember anyone saying Lubden in these movies. Yeah,
and you've watched all of them, so
yeah. Well,
I'm, I'm gonna call bullshit right now because I've only seen the first four, but
so I think like in they might have used Lucky in one of like the remakes that they've done, like because they
right,
did Leprechaun Origins back in what was that like 2014 or somewhere around that. And like that one, I barely consider a Leprechaun movie because it's like got nothing to do with like the rest of the movies, really, right? Like it's
right,
more like a horror creature film where like the
mhm,
leprechauns are more like the Hopkinsville goblins than they are like like a leprechaun, right? Like they're just like killing and
yeah,
terrorizing people and stuff. Like it's almost like entirely unrelated, but I think they might have used Lucky in that one and maybe in like and because the one that they did in 2018, Leprechaun Returns, is actually technically a sequel to the first Leprechaun movie from 1993. Um,
right.
and even but they obviously it's not the same actors or anything, but it's kind of like supposed to be a direct sequel like to the original. But yeah, I don't recall them ever calling him Lubden in any of these.
Yeah, this is a very confusing franchise, I gotta say, because if it's not if you decide from the outset that you're not going to put any thought into it. Like if you really want any kind of consistency, if you want to say like, you know, how do these all line up? Like there is
Hmm.
an answer for you, but it's a lot more fun if you just don't worry about
And I don't even think it's the same Leprechaun, per se in all the plots. So, 'cause in some of the other movies, I think like in the Hood movies, like there's actually more than one Leprechaun. Like
Huh.
there's like two leprechauns, and so like I don't even think it's necessarily like the same leprechaun. It's like just like a leprechaun from that species or leprechauns or whatever. Because they actually kill some of the leprechauns in some of these movies, like
Right.
but yet they come back in like other movies. Like so, yeah, I don't
Well,
even.
he dies at least in the first three, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And then like in the Hood one, they bury him in concrete. Um, uh, and I guess like your ad about the lead, iron, or was it
right.
lead or iron?
Iron. It was an
Yeah,
iron spike in the second one
yeah.
causes them to
So yeah, and I think same kind of thing. And like I think in the first Hood one, I think he falls on some like iron piles, like inside like a thing of concrete, like and it kind of like turns him into like concrete. Um,
oh.
but yeah. He
So he
falls.
hits the rebar and that kills him.
Yeah, yeah, he fall like he gets impaled on rebar in like a box of concrete that just happens to be still like wet underneath this building roof that they push that they push him off of.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because all right, so I had to look into it. Like I had to look up the plot of number two just to be sure he actually died at the end of two. Because at the beginning of this one, there's Leprechaun 3, we're in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Uh and what happens in Vegas obviously doesn't stay in Vegas for this movie, but because we get to see everything that happens. But
yeah,
this man with a hook hand comes running into a pawn shop with a stone leprechaun wearing a necklace,
hmm
and he tells the pawn shop owner like not to take the necklace off, but he's trying to sell him like this, leprechaun statue. So our leprechaun has been turned into stone somehow, and which immediately makes you think like, wait, did they somehow turn him into stone at the end of the second one? I can't remember now. I had to look it up, and no, they didn't. That's
Yeah.
not what happened. So there's like a whole missing movie there. Like there's a something happened in between the end of two, where he came back again and then was defeated with the necklace that turns him into stone. I guess somewhere between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, and that's just a movie we don't get to see.
Well, that's why I was kind of confused about like the Leprechaun in the Hood movie, like because I thought maybe they were chronologically out of order, like, and the reason he was like basically stone or concrete was because he was immersed in concrete. But like, no, that movie came out years later, has nothing to do with Leprechaun 3. Like,
Right.
really, like it's part of this series, but like they're kind of a bit separate. Uh, yeah, no idea how he got turned to stone, or what's the deal with the this magical kind of like amulet or whatever you want to call it that he wears on his neck, and it's I guess as long as he's wearing it, it's stone. But the second they take it off, the guy he thaws and comes back
Hmm.
up again.
Yeah, he gets freed. Like this amulet necklace thing is just it binds him somehow inside of stone. Um, I think the reason for that is that the guy that wrote or directed this movie that did the pitch for it was given the title Leprechaun in Las Vegas and hadn't seen the first two and wrote a script real quick and got it. So that's that's my understanding of how this movie came to be.
Yeah, that
Uh,
makes sense.
It does make sense, yeah. And as for the rest of it, it's just magic, man. Don't worry about it. It's glamour magic, it's leprechaun magic, and but this is the first of this series that was direct to video, which is great. I love direct to video stuff because it's like all pretense goes out the window if it's not going to be shown in the theaters.
Yeah, they don't have to try as hard. Yeah. Well,
So
I like how the guy just goes in there with the thing and he's like, was he settle for like $20 or something like
yeah.
for the leprechaun and he gives him a just the briefest warning basically like don't take the thing off of it, but like you know obviously somebody's going to take the necklace off. Like that guy had to know he was going to kick off a whole shitstorm in Las Vegas by dumping this like leprechaun off in a pawn shop.
Mm.
But he just wanted his $20 so he could get out of town and get some gas or something. And
Well, he was probably traumatized. I mean, he did have the hook hand, and
yeah,
given what we've seen from the leprechaun might have been responsible for that hook hand in some
yeah,
way. So the
I
guy
mean,
was just interested in getting the hell away from the thing. Uh,
yeah. That's kind of an
so
element of a lot of, I think, of kind of like haunted object, like horror kind of movies or stories is like, the one person just wants to get rid of it, pass it on to the next guy. Like, any thoughts about how moral or ethical it is to pass on this evil thing to the next guy kind of goes out the window when you're trying to save your own ass from the consequences, and you're just looking to get rid of the thing as quickly as possible. Yeah,
well, yeah. I mean, it was like the old superstition. I was told as a child that if you come across like the evil eye, one thing you can do is turn your back to it and throw salt over your shoulder and walk away, and then like the next person that walks by picks it up instead. Like, and I'm like, but that's not cool for the next person.
who
Why don't I
cares
just
about the
take
next guy?
it? I'll just take it. I'll deal with it, because it's that's not cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Leaving curses laying around on the sidewalk. What if it's a child?
And that's even the problem with just like if you're trying to like maybe just try to dispose of something, right? Like the monkey story, right? Like you can't just like get rid of this evil object like because it'll pop back up other places. Like ultimately, if you're trying to be like responsible, you've got to hold on to that evil object to keep it safe from people doing stupid crap with it, like
Hmm.
and hide it away somewhere. Yeah.
But then the problem becomes that you can't live forever. So eventually,
Yep.
because I mean, that's the first one, I think, is that the leprechaun is in a trunk or something in the guy's basement and he died. And then they find it down there or something like that, right? Wasn't that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And yeah, so you'd have to like That'd have to be your tragic family legacy, like in your will. Take care of the evil leprechaun that I'm kept buried in the basement. Make sure nobody gets hold of it. But yeah, yeah.
Don't open that box.
I mean, isn't that kind of like, isn't that also one of the plots of some of those like uh the Warren, those movies about like the Warrens, like where they keep all those haunted objects in their house, like in their basement, and like people
Right.
end up going in there and like touching them, and like it sets off a whole kind of whole ordeal. Yeah.
Yeah, or like the Conjuring movies.
Yeah, the Conjuring. I think that's what I'm thinking of, like the Conjuring movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Hmm. I think those movies were more just fictionalized versions of their investigations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really, but I think the Nun movies off of that were kind of based on this idea that like Ed had painted this like demon nun or something, and then the painting itself was possessed. And I think
Hmm.
those movies kind of play with that idea where that painting goes to somebody else's house, and then
Also, the Annabelle the doll movies, aren't they kind of
yeah,
like that? Like, yeah, the doll ends up getting from place to place. Yeah.
and those ones crack me up because the real life Annabelle was a Raggedy Ann doll, which that
Oh,
wouldn't
that's
play
scary.
so well in a movie. I don't think. Like,
Somebody should make that accurate movie, though. I think that'd be funny. Uh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, if they make the accurate movie, they'll have to have somebody that looks more like Ed Warren play Ed Warren.
well, I've seen I don't know if you've seen any of them, but there's been some Winnie the Pooh horror movies that they've made in the last few years, that I've watched a few of them, where like Pooh Bear is basically a serial killing psycho, that just
Yeah,
killed a bunch of people. So
right.
you can take cute characters and turn them into psychos. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can, but I mean, I actually think it might be kind of creepy if you just had a regular Raggedy Ann doll that was like murdering people or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you
yeah,
wouldn't even have to scare it up. Yeah.
yeah. It would be uncanny enough on its own. But those
Yeah.
movies crack me up just because they found like young, fit, attractive people to play the Warrens, and you're just like, I, I watched one of them with my son, and then I was like, "You want to see what they really look like?" And I like Googled the picture. I'm like, "That's what Ed Warren really looked like. He wasn't this guy."
Yeah, it's like Vera Farmiga or whatever played, and what's his face?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't. But yeah, I wasn't prepared to talk about those movies, so I don't remember their names. But they're attractive people.
Well, that's how it is pretty much for all movies. So a lot of times you look at the real people they're playing, and it's like, yeah, they don't look like Hollywood A-lister actors like that.
Yeah,
But
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that John Keel was thrilled to have
Richard
uh,
Gere.
Richard Gere in the Mothman Prophecies.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, but uh, now I'm thinking like, imagine if the Warrens squared off against Leprechaun. We need like a Leprechaun versus Ed and Lorraine Warren movie.
Yeah, where they get their hands on it, and yeah, uh,
Yeah,
crossover time.
it's a crossover.
Eight movies is not enough for the Leprechaunathon franchise. We need nine. We need
Well, you
more.
have to hold on to your title. So if there's another one added, that's definitely going to tip the scales. Because
Yeah. Did any of them ever go back to theater after the second one? I don't like. Did any of the Hood ones go into theater? I don't think
I
so. I'm not
don't
sure.
think so.
Yeah.
Um, uh, that's a damn good question, though. Uh, well, it would be Back to the Hood. I think might have.
It says Leprechaun in the Hood was direct to video, and Back to the Hood was the first film to be released by Lionsgate, but it doesn't say if it went to theaters or not.
Hmm.
Which would be shocking because like Back to the Hood, the second in the Hood one is like not very good at all compared to the original Back to the Hood or the Leprechaun in the Hood. The
Well,
the
Leprechaun in the Hood had Ice T in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a much better movie than the second one.
I love Ice-T, man. That guy's just like, whatever, I'm just collecting a paycheck.
Yeah. I mean, I like Paige Kennedy was in Back to the Hood, and I like Paige Kennedy. He does like some funny characters in movies and stuff, but
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
it didn't have the feel of the original Leprechaun in the Hood movie.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's important to note also that like the original Leprechaun movie was what kind of launched Jennifer Aniston's career. So
Yeah. Yeah. When I watched that, I was like, wait a second, like that's Jennifer Aniston, like really young Jennifer Aniston. And
yeah,
I think it's like her first like feature film or something, like her first like major like film that like she was in was like
yeah, it was.
yeah, Leprechaun. That's crazy.
Put her on the map.
That's right. Whoever said starting a Leprechaun movie couldn't launch your Hollywood career is a liar.
Right, right. And then, of course, Warwick Davis is the Leprechaun in just about all the movies except, I guess, the remake,
Yeah, the newer ones. Yeah.
and the Origins one. So, is the Origin one, is that like a reboot? Would you say?
Y- Yeah, I guess. I think they were trying to like reboot it. Like it's a weird title because like I don't think it really explains the origins of anything. Like you would think it being called Leprechaun Origins, we'd learn kind of about the origins of the leprechauns, but like I say, no, it was just like it's I think they tried to go more horror movie with it. Like it wasn't really comedy. It wasn't like a horror comedy or whatever, like you might consider the other ones that are kind of funny with like the the jokes and the rhymes and stuff. But yeah, it kind of just went straight horror. I think they were trying to reboot it, but yeah, didn't work out. Then they tried to, like I say, with the next one, Returns, they tried to go back with doing a sequel to the original movie. And it just again didn't have Warwick Davis in it. It's some other guy in it, and it just didn't have the feeling as well either.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Warwick Davis has to stop doing it eventually, so you just can't play the same character forever. But
You could bring him in as the old wise leprechaun. That
there you go.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, as we learned in this movie, leprechauns are very territorial. So they don't like sharing. They don't like being in the same area. So if you
Hmm.
put two leprechauns in the same place, you're asking for trouble, basically. But
Yeah.
um,
Do you recall how the guy in Leprechaun 3, he starts to transform, but because he's got a bite, like I've watched that movie 3 or 4 times now, and I don't recall him ever getting bit. Did they actually
um,
show him getting bit?
I think okay. So this was immediately apparent to me because Leprechaun bites an awful lot of people. Like
Yeah,
he bit Gupta's toe off at the beginning of the movie, the pawn shop owner.
but why
The-
don't they turn?
because it's not the bite. So
It's
that's the thing
that.
with this movie. Just for listeners who aren't going to go watch this movie, you basically have a were leprechaun in this movie, and you're kind of led to believe because he got bit by a leprechaun, he's turning into a leprechaun. In fact, what happens is he gets beat up fighting with the leprechaun and has open wounds, and then he stabs the leprechaun in the forehead, causing this green blood to gush out. So then the green blood gets in the guy's open wounds and they become like blood brothers, and it starts turning him from a human into a leprechaun. So it's less the bite thing that does it and more just the fact that the leprechaun blood gets into his bloodstream, I guess, through an open wound.
That makes sense because like the scene where they show the bite, he kind of he's passed out in the hotel room and he just kind of wakes up like and just like looks around confused and looks on his arm and you can see this bite, but you can also see kind of like a like this greenish kind of like stuff like goop or whatever that's kind of like over his arm where the bite is like so
Right.
like
Yeah.
dripped in and changed him in some way.
Right. Leprechaun blood. Yeah. I mean,
It's
this is
like
basic science, Jeff. I don't know what you don't understand.
it's vampire science. Like you've got you biting isn't enough. You've got to transfer some of the own blood into the person in order to properly convert them over to the new
Yeah.
creature, apparently.
Right. Yeah. Well, the rules are different in every movie, I guess. Like kind of like you were saying before we recorded, like the rules about what actually hurts the leprechaun and what he's invulnerable to are just kind of different every time.
Yeah, I mean, like in some of the movies, like the guy will be shot several times and it's like nothing. Like the guy's like, "Oh, no big deal." And in other movies, like that people beat him up with like a baseball bat or they kick him or punch him and like they temporarily defeat him anyways. Like there's really no consistency in what injures like this leprechaun guy throughout the movies or even the same movie, in fact. But
Yeah.
here's consistency. Suspend your disbelief.
Well, he's really good at bilocating and glamour magic too, where he can make it appear like he's somewhere and he's really not over there, or turn something into something other than it appears. Um, like in the second one, he turns like a lawnmower that's turned on into like a hot lady, and
Yeah.
causes the guy to like walk right into it, basically. Um, that's pretty brutal. But
Yeah, he mimics people in multiple like movies. Like in the third one, in fact, there's this scene where there's like the guy thinks he's about to engage in relations with a beautiful woman, and it turns out it's basically a robot thing that the guy was glimmered into thinking was a woman, and
yeah,
it's
it's basically like the skeletal frame of a robot with like a weird head on it and breasts.
yeah, a primitive like sex bot of some kind. Yeah, pretty much. But that's almost even weirder though. Like he's got these abilities that he could have used to save himself in many of the situations throughout the movies, but like he doesn't, right? Like he seems to
Yeah,
have
that's what I'm getting at.
the
Yeah,
ability to
yeah, yeah.
bilocate, but like he doesn't use it to save himself, like in the space movie, for example, the fourth movie. Like, and if you can change like appearances and forms and sizes like that, like again, why doesn't there's a in the fourth movie there's a scene where he basically gets blown up into a tall person. Like
Hmm.
why can't he just like magics himself back down to small again to make it more convenient to find the person he's looking for? Or why when he's getting sucked out into space, why can't he just bilocate himself to like a different location in the ship where he's not getting sucked out the whole into space? Like there's
Right.
so many inconsistencies like with his powers that like he could use to save himself that he doesn't in certain scenes. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think it's just lack of focus. Maybe that's the moral lesson of Leprechaun is don't be like Leprechaun because he's so greedy. All he really cares about is that gold or like pranking people into dying. Like pranking people to death. So,
Yeah, and they do tend to get the drop on him when he's like doing stuff like busy counting his gold, like only in many cases, like in the Leprechaun 4 in space, there's a scene where like he's counting the gold and she gets up behind him with the gun, but for some reason like the guns always seem to fail and not work. Like they've got like the Leprechaun dead to right, I think in multiple movies, but like their weapon or whatever they're going to use to kill a guy doesn't work, giving the Leprechaun time to like turn around and be like, "Oh, okay, I got you now," and
right.
continue the long drawn out kind of battle scene with the Leprechaun. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not consistent. And yeah, I mean, I think Leprechaun 4, Leprechaun in Space, is just a masterpiece. Like it might be my favorite of the series, but like I said, I've only seen the first four. I think I saw it in the hood like years ago. But I don't remember anything about it other than Ice T was in it. So
Yeah. Yeah, Leprechaun 4 Space has got some interesting kind of scenes in it, as we've spoken up before. They kind of they kind of borrow the alien chest burster scene, only it's not his chest. The leprechaun pops out of in 4.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, he basically pops out of a guy's boner.
Yep.
It's real weird. It's real fucking weird.
Yeah. Yeah, these movies, like I say, being straight to video is like they just didn't care. They just go with it. Some of these crazy weird places.
Yeah, I feel like the direct to video stuff either went like in a softcore porn direction or it just went to like balls to the wall like all right, practical effects guys, what was something you always wanted to do but you've never been able to because the script didn't call for it. Just go for it. Like Give us ideas, you know.
You guys want to make a primitive looking sex bot? Yeah, okay, cool. We'll add that scene to Leprechaun 3.
That scene goes on for a long time too. That's a pretty drawn out one.
Yeah.
The He's like the casino owner, I guess, or the manager. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of unclear on that kind of whole back plot. Like, what does he owe money for to these guys that, so like he owes money to these guys that what own a clothing shop, but like and they're like, making threats to him, for the money he owes. And I'm not sure like what this guy's actual job is. Does he own the casino? Like if he owned it, you think he wouldn't need to be borrowing money from some guy at a closing shop. Is he just a
Right.
manager of the casino? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't really tell you what's happening there, and I guess it doesn't really matter that much. But
Yeah, it's
because
kind of a
we have a very small cast of characters, considering we're in Las Vegas, and you could bring like a ton of people in. But but really, the only people we're concerned about is this one kid. I guess he's on his way to college. Is That's
yep,
what's happening, and then he ends up picking up this woman whose car broke down, and it turns out she's the magician's assistant at the casino,
yep.
and he wants to go in and see a real Las Vegas casino, uh, but he's not 21 yet. So she sneaks him in under the pretense that he's not going to gamble, but he does, of course, and immediately loses all his money. So that's what brings him to the pawn shop, and that's how he gets all mixed up with the leprechaun, who, as we already mentioned, is over there. So uh, you got a couple characters established, but then you have the casino owner who apparently owes money to this guy that owns a clothing store and his like big dumb bodyguard, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a woman that like runs the craps table or the roulette table rather. Now she's the only actress in this movie or actor in this movie that I recognize from anything else, and I didn't even
Okay.
recognize her.
What was she?
Um, she was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So she's in another sequel. Um, Caroline Williams. So
Hmm.
have you ever seen Texas Chainsaw 2?
Maybe at some point. Those kind of movies were not my favorite genre, so I probably watched them, but I don't really recall them. But yeah, she literally gets blown up in Leprechaun 3.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she was the final girl in in Texas Chainsaw 2. She's like a radio DJ, and she's the
Oh,
one
okay.
that's like the target of everything. But
Hmm.
yeah, in this one, um, there's a whole lot of magic being used against people. So you know, she obviously, I guess, I don't know if this happens in any of the other ones, but if you get a hold of a leprechaun coin, apparently you can like make a wish and it will come true. Does
Yeah,
is
I think that's a I think that's even part of the first one, or it's at least part of multiple of the other ones. Like, yeah.
okay. I just didn't know how consistent this was, but
Yeah, that's
yeah,
part of the whole lore. And they've actually got one of the things they did with Leprechaun 3 is they had the guy in this pawn shop had a little computer, and they actually had these little animated videos explaining like how the leprechaun gold worked and like the leprechaun like lore, basically, like
right.
where they explain like, if you have the leprechaun wants his gold back, but you have a coin, like you can make a wish. Um, in one of in the other movies, isn't it like if you've got the coin, it can't actually hurt you? Isn't
Right.
that?
Well, that was what it was in the second one. Is if you
Yeah,
had a coin, leprechaun couldn't hurt you.
yeah. But like for example, like in the Hood movies, again, they're using the coins like to get like what they want, so like they're making wishes on them and stuff like,
Hmm.
uh, so yeah, you get a wish with the coin apparently. But it also means the leprechaun can't hurt you if you've got the coin. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's obviously not true in this one, or is it? Doesn't he hurt somebody that has it? He's able to hurt the magician when he has it at the end, I think, right?
Does he still have it on him though?
Oh,
Because if
that's
you
a good
recall,
question.
so one of the besides for the character that lady that's like works at one of the tables, like really the only other kind of main character is the magician who pops in for a little bit of the movie. And he actually before that lady dies, he gets the coin from her. I think
Hmm.
that opens her up to be able to attack by magic with the leprechaun is because she no longer has the coin on her. That
Right, because he took it.
yeah. And so I
But
think it's still part of the plot. It's just they don't really, I don't think they talk about it or mention that's what's going on. Um,
right,
yeah.
yeah. Well, anyway, she wishes to be thin and young and beautiful again, and then Leprechaun makes her butt expand and her boobs expand and her lips expand until she blows up.
And
So,
some practical effects guy had to make that model up with probably a little bit of explosives inside it to where they could blow it up because
right.
like they actually show like the body at one point I think it's like in between a doorway and like it gets to its maximum size to the point where it just like blows up into like pieces. But yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice touch there because then Leprechaun has like an umbrella. He's like holding an umbrella so that he doesn't get covered with
Protect
gore.
yourself from the splatter. Yeah.
See, his movies are pretty darkly funny and just stupid, like really stupid. And I think Warwick Davis said that this third one in Las Vegas is was his favorite of the bunch because they were like, it was the one where they were playing around the most and tried to work humor into it the most.
Yeah,
Um,
because the little rhymes and stuff, like some of them are kind of like crude, but yeah, they're kind of funny and ridiculous. Like one of my favorite rhymes is actually like from the third one, where is like first it's like at the beginning of the movie where they're in the pawn shop, and like I think he first gets thawed, and he's like, "There once was a man from Madras who had balls made out of fine brass." And when the weather was stormy, his balls clinked together and sparks flew out of his ass.
yeah,
And it's like I just like that quote. That's one of my favorite rhymes from the whole movie.
yeah. I mean, he's full of dirty limericks in this
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I can't quite remember what the limerick was after the lady blew up, but yeah, he had some limerick about her ass being grass or something. I don't know what it was.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he talks exclusively in rhyme in this one, and I'm not sure if that's true of all of them. Can't remember, but
yeah. It's not true in all of them, but yeah, I think that's true in this one. I think he pretty much does talk and rhyme this whole movie in number three.
yeah, occasionally, yeah, you get a few limericks, but otherwise, if he says anything at all, it has to rhyme.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
which actually makes me think. I'm just spitballing here, but did you ever read the comic book The Demon with
Mm,
Etrigan the Demon?
no.
The DC Comics. But there was a point where he like graduated to a class of demon, but in that class of demon, he had to speak in rhyme all the time. So maybe it's a similar rule with leprechauns. Is like after a certain amount of incarnations, you have to rhyme all the
Yeah.
time.
And he's been killed enough times that yeah, he got there.
Right.
But then I think in the fourth one, he doesn't rhyme like all the time. He talks a lot. The
Yeah.
space.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it starts over again, I guess.
Yeah. That's
Every
that
third one.
that's also like that's the thing with these movies. Like they're part of a series, but like they're not really connected in any way. Like except for the character, except for the leprechaun, right? Like it's not like there's a consistent plot like structure from one to two to three to four to like each movie's basically standalone. You don't have to watch like the other movies to like watch any individual leprechaun movie.
Yeah, it really does not matter at
Yeah.
all. Like this one just drops in with some storyline where he's encased in stone and we have no idea why how he got there. Like
Yeah.
so and like you said, leprechaun in space. Why is the leprechaun in space? Who knows? He's just in space. Don't
Who
question
knows?
it.
Who cares? He's yeah.
He's on a space station. What do you need a map? Like
Yeah. I don't even know how far in the future that movie is supposed to like take place. Like, I guess it doesn't really matter. Like,
nothing about that movie matters. It's just like a fever dream of like Roger Corman level sci-fi.
Yeah, like the humans allegedly know about this planet. Like in that movie, there's this like lady from a planet Dominion that they supposedly know about, like because this one soldier in this movie knows about the lore of the planet, Dominion.
Mhm.
Like they find her necklace and they're like this is a necklace of the royal family of the planet Dominion. Like, okay, you know that now exactly. But they do. So yeah, these movies you just kind of have to suspend disbelief, accept the plot you're given at the beginning, and not worry about the rest of it.
Yeah, and don't even look for like consistency in how Leprechaun works or how any of the magic works, because it's not gonna stay that consistent, I don't think.
Don't try to make
Um,
sense out of it. Just enjoy
because
absurdity.
yeah, yeah, and I mean because I mean in this one in Leprechaun 3, um, you have the character that becomes basically a were leprechaun, like he's turning into a leprechaun.
Yeah,
Um, very slowly. He has time to save himself with the help of the magician's assistant lady, who,
yeah.
who obviously falls in love with him over the course of the movie, because that's got to happen. Um,
Hey, he just won a lot of money, so he's got prospects, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
that's true. um,
I mean,
but
you're not even halfway into the movie when he wins it and he tells her, "Is like, this is all because of you. It's you and me. It's both of us. We're gonna share this money." Like, yeah.
well, she seems skeptical about that though.
At first, yeah. But by the end of the movie, yeah, she seems all in. Yeah.
She's all in. Yeah.
They walk off into the sunset or the nighttime, into the
Right.
dark together. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy wins the girl. That's everything is right with the world. But
Yeah.
so I mean, in defeating the leprechaun, I guess that also cures his leprechaunism.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all that's been part of like werewolf mythology, at least in fiction, is where they say, and also I think like vampire like mythology, at least in fiction, is where they say like if you can like kill the guy before, like if you are with werewolves, if you can kill the werewolf that turned you before the next full moon, you won't change. It'll be like you won't convert to a werewolf. And
Hmm,
like same thing I've heard like in various vampire stories, like if you can kill the guy that turned you, it supposedly saves you from being a vampire or whatever. Uh,
that makes
and
sense.
same kind of thing in this story. Like apparently, if they kill the leprechaun, he's saved and he no longer converts. I'm not sure. I guess it's magic, right? Because like it
Yeah,
must not be like a virus or a biological infection because like that wouldn't cure him. But magic, magic,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, well, their way of getting rid of him in this movie apparently is if you destroy the pot of gold. Because I
yeah,
guess this is where I was going with the greed thing too. It's like no human ever thinks to destroy the pot of gold because they always want the gold. Like people are just too greedy. Like they see gold and they can't bear the thought of getting rid of it. They want to take it.
yeah.
And that's what the leprechaun embodies. So then he ends up just killing you for it. But it was really funny when they came up with that, because I think they were watching the same video on the computer disc in the pawn shop that
Yeah.
the pawn shop owner didn't listen to all the way. But it's like if you destroy the pot of gold, you destroy the leprechaun. I'm like, how do you destroy a pot of gold though? And
And
apparently,
why did this guy have a disc with leprechaun instructions on his computer? Where did that come from?
somebody pawned it, man.
Or is that just more leprechaun magic? Did like the leprechaun put that in there to give them clues on to how to destroy him? Or
Right. Well, you think he would put a wrong one in there, because I
you would
mean
think,
he can project himself on TV and make like um, half-assed lady sex bot crawl out of the TV. So like
yeah,
why why can't why can't he control the computer? But yeah, that was the one thing I saw where it's just, oh, we got to destroy the pot of gold to destroy the leprechaun, and I'm like, how does one destroy a pot of gold though? I don't. And apparently the answer is a blowtorch. You just hit it with like a flamethrower once, and it's gone.
which would just realistically melt it at best into a pile of larger gold. It wouldn't destroy it.
He
I
barely touched it with the flame. He hit it once
yeah,
with the flame, and the thing just vaporized.
yeah. I think that's actually part of the one of the Hood movies too, is that like they talk about needing to destroy the gold, but like nobody, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, but it's even weird though because so they he doesn't want to destroy the gold, because he's turned it into were leprechaun, so he likes the gold. He's like, oh no, you got to keep
Hmm.
it. And so magician assistant lady, like smacks him around a few times in the movie, and
Yeah,
eventually, like say he saves himself, but the movie literally ends with them with still a piece of gold. So they didn't destroy all the gold because they still had a coin, and despite everything they just went to, they're debating whether they should use it or not to wish for something.
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately they don't, but
Well, I
so
think that leaves the door open for another sequel, for one thing. But also that, I mean, again, with the werewolf or the werewolf like leprechaunism that he's going through, you'd think that if there's still one coin left, like that could perpetuate his leprechaunism. Like that. You think he needs to destroy that too.
yeah, it means you didn't destroy all the gold. You just
Right.
destroyed some of it. Like, so
Well, is it the gold or the pot? What if you just dumped out all the gold and destroyed the pot?
that would defeat the whole logic behind the greed of people not being able to get rid of the gold if you could actually
That's
just
true.
keep the gold and get rid of the pot.
but,
I think we're
but he
thinking
did
too
keep the
much here.
gold.
We're trying to come up with logical consistencies with a Leprechaun movie plot here, and I'm not sure that works.
No, no. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to speculate, but well, I guess we'll never really know. But they do throw away the coin ultimately. They.
Which means somebody
But
could find it, you
yep,
know, and because I believe like once they make it's like making a wish on a coin, like just draws the leprechaun right to you, right? Like in this
I
movie,
guess.
he literally smells the like when he wakes up, the guy's long gone. So he goes to the pawn shop, this kid that's driving through town after he's lost all his money at the casino because he's going to pawn his watch. And he uh gets to the pawn shop and he finds, dead guy. He finds the dead pawn shop owner. But he finds like that gold coin and whatnot. And I, I don't think he even knows like about, he doesn't even know about the logic of wishing on it. Like he just kind of, I guess, wishes like, he was back, making money or whatever. I forget what his exact wish was, but he just instantaneously finds himself back in the casino. And he's winning a whole ton of money, like at the table, and that's
Hmm.
how he gets all the money that he wins. But
Well, I think that the computer program is still going, and it says something about making a wish when he picks up the coin.
yeah. So that program is just running on the computer in the background, and yeah, he makes a wish, and he ends up back there, and he wins, and yeah,
Well, I mean, okay, this is another question I had. The Las Vegas police clearly went there and then, removed the pawn shop owner Gupta's corpse and did some form of investigation. Like they put police tape up, but they didn't lock the door because they end up going back to the pawn shop after because they figure there's
yeah.
got to be something they can learn there to help destroy the leprechaun. But they just kind of walk right in. Like the police
It's
are
just,
like, no one will. There's tape. No one will cross the tape.
and this is literally the same night, so like
Right.
realistically, there'd still be cops there, like they probably have somebody at least monitoring the location until the
Right.
next, yeah, so
You'd think there'd just be a cruiser on the street, like watching the place at least,
yeah.
plainclothes cops or something. But
Mhm.
I
But
mean,
but like what I was getting at though, so he ends up basically teleported back to the casino, but somehow the leprechaun knows the gold's there. Like he can smell it. Like they show him in the casino, like, and he's like, can smell my gold. And like,
right.
so uh I guess once you've got the gold to make a wish, it's almost like a beacon that like the leprechaun knows about you. And now you're going to be a victim of the leprechaun, or he's going to try and make you his next victim because you took
Yep.
his gold and used his magic.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I have to say that's some of the most fun moments in the movie too, is where he's just wandering around the casino, interacting with people, gambling. You're just seeing the leprechaun having a good time.
Yeah.
Because he seems to realize, like, oh wait, I don't necessarily need to murder people for fun. Like, there's other ways I can have fun. This could have been a whole different movie if, when he meets the Elvis impersonator, they just kind of like walk off together and like start a band.
Yeah. That would have been cool.
Would have been cool because they seem to really enjoy each other. The Elvis impersonator's like, I like those shoes, man.
Yeah, he spends a lot more time having fun in I think 3 than he does in like a lot of the other movies. Like he's seems to be all business in like a lot of the other movies, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Vegas is the town of fun, so guess he decides to indulge a bit.
Yeah. I mean, well, and like I said, Warwick Davis said that it was the one he had the most fun making. So it seemed like it was his favorite one to do.
Yeah.
But I didn't even realize till tonight, well, right before we recorded, I was like, wait, so like, how old is Warwick Davis? He's currently like 55 right now.
Hmm.
Like, and I'm like, that kind of blew my mind because I remember seeing him in movies like Willow, which came out in 1988. And I'm like, so he was only like 18 in that. And then I was like, wait, wasn't he in like Star Wars? And yeah, he was in Return of the Jedi. It was his first movie at age 12, which blows my mind because he played Wicket the Ewok.
And so he was only in Leprechaun 3, 25, and like Leprechaun
Yeah,
1, 23. Yeah. So
yeah. It's kind of crazy. I mean, I just assumed because I mean, if you're a little person in Hollywood, um, they tend to just you have a pretty good career for anything back then. As we were talking about this before the show, because if you've seen like robots or small-ish monsters or any kind of thing like that in 80s movies or before, and
hmm
even into the 90s, before there was computer graphics imaging for everything, you had to have a tiny person inside of a costume, like moving things around, like
Yeah. The Godzilla
R2D2.
movies. Got the Godzilla movies. There's a person inside that Godzilla costume, like
Right.
used to be
Yeah.
actual people inside these things.
Yeah. This is for the kids listening that don't know, but yeah, like R2D2 in the original movies was this guy Kenny Baker was inside there, like operating it to move it around, and movie magic makes it look like a robot. But I don't know. I guess I just kind of assumed, since I knew Warwick Davis's name and he was in some of these movies in the '80s, that like he was established or something at that point, like as an adult. Like I thought he was like 20 in 1982 when he was playing an Ewok, but
Yeah.
no, he was 12. That's crazy.
Well,
But
I think yeah, they probably had, reliable work like that, but you also probably got a bit typecast.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not saying it was like a privileged position
Yeah.
to be in, but you probably could get steady work
Has he been
because
in anything recently?
um yeah, you know what? I didn't happen to make note of what his most recent credits were, but I was surprised to see that he was Marvin the Paranoid Android in the American feature length Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie, which that is kind of old by now. I don't remember what year that came out, but
Like 2004 or something?
sounds
Uh,
about right. Yeah, so 20 years ago.
yeah.
So he didn't do the voice. Obviously, they used Alan Rickman's voice, but he was inside the Marvin suit. So,
Well, I guess
um,
he's been in a lot of things like Harry Potter movies,
oh right, yeah, he'd been in a bunch of the Harry Potter stuff.
and a lot of the newer Star Wars movies like Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi. Um, yeah,
Oh
so
yeah, you're right.
but
I think he actually played Yoda in one of the prequels, just for the parts where he has to like walk into the scene and stuff like that. So,
like he plays a lot of different roles. Like he played Wicket in Rise of Skywalker, and Solo he played a character named Weasel. In Last Jedi he played a character named Wodabin. In Rogue One he played a character called Weetief Sayubi. Like at Force Awakens, he played a character named Wollavon. So yeah,
Hmm,
he's been like different characters in I guess quite a few of the recent Star Wars movies. Yeah.
that's crazy.
As
Yeah, because
well.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess for Return of the Jedi, they just did like a general call in the public, like looking for any actors under 4 feet tall for Return of the Jedi, and Warwick Davis's grandmother was like, just signed him up. She's like, "Oh, we got to get you in there."
Yeah, hey, kicked off a career.
Yeah.
And that happens, they just a general call like that. Like there's I don't know if you've seen there's a new TV series on right now called Adolescence on Netflix. That's kind of co-written by the actor Stephen Graham. That they needed a 13-year-old kid for that movie, that like a young small kid that would play like the plot of the movie is basically a 13-year-old gets arrested for murdering a girl by the police. And every episode is filmed in a single shot takes.
Hmm.
So each episode basically approaches the story from a different viewpoint, like the parents, the kids at school, the kid, etc. And the kid's basically been radicalized by Andrew Tate and all that kind of nonsense. Um, but in this movie, they did an open call. This kid and the kid they found for it does an amazing job. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins some awards for his role. Has never been in anything before. Like they just did a call and they found him at some like local kids drama call that they did. And they thought he'd be perfect for it and gave him the role. And yeah, that's some people are like that. There's been some Doctor Who companions that were like that as well. Like they just did a call for it and they were shocked they got a call back like you're gonna be the new Doctor Who companion. Like, what? Huh?
Right.
Awesome. Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy too, because like you're instantly gonna either be loved or hated by the public, you know? Like,
Well, my favorite Doctor Who is Tom Baker. That's my doctor, as you would say. Um,
right.
he was actually working in construction when he got the job to be the doctor. And
Yeah.
he was on like his construction crew, and like they came and told him like you're gonna be the new Doctor Who, and he's like, what? Cool, because he's like a goofy
Yeah.
guy, but he was working normal jobs and stuff like at the time period, and just kind of like tried out for it and ended up getting the role, and in my opinions was the best doctor out of all the Doctor Who's.
Yeah.
So.
But he was also acting. I think he was doing like stage
Yeah,
acting
he
or
had done
something.
some
Yeah.
acting beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of actors
not like
that,
they just pulled him off a construction site with no experience or anything, but yeah. But yeah,
well, I
well,
hear
I mean,
that's where they pulled what's his face from Jason Statham, not at a construction site, but Jason Statham, uh they pulled him off the street. He used to be a street hustler. That like in England that were like
yeah.
basically selling counterfeit goods and stuff on the street corner. And like I think like the Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels director guy like saw him. And
Hmm.
like now he's like a freaking A-list actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the one I was thinking of, just because of like the age of Warwick Davis for Return of the Jedi, and the George Lucas thing, is uh Ki uh Kiwi Kwan, the guy that played Short Round in the Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom.
Hmm.
That was like one of those deals. Like I listened to an interview with him somewhat recently. He was really young, like I don't know, like 6 or 8 or something like that. But I mean, his family had escaped China and were refugees in like Los Angeles. He'd only been in the United States for like less than a year, and then they did a casting call at the school that he was going to, and he barely even spoke English. And then all of a sudden, he's in like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, which is kind of amazing, you know?
He's a I like him. I think he's a good actor. I like a lot of the stuff he's been in recently.
Yeah,
Like it's kind of weird, like you like having watched him, in those movies as like a kid, and then like you see him like as an adult. Like there's one of his new movies I just watched a few weeks ago called Love Actual or Love Hurts, um,
yeah.
which was pretty good. And
Where he
again,
does a lot of martial arts and stuff in
yeah,
that one. Yeah.
yeah, he's
But I mean,
pretty
Everything
badass.
Everywhere All at Once was an amazing movie, and
Yeah, that was a great movie as well.
it was
Yeah.
so cool to see him like grown up in acting, and because he's recognizable, you still recognize him as
Yeah, you can
short
still see
round.
that face, those mannerisms stuff in him. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
but yeah, that is an amazing thing. Just imagine being like a little kid and somebody shuffles you off to a casting call, and then it's like next thing you know, you're in like the biggest movie in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
And some
wild.
of those kids stick with it and continue to be actors, but some of those kids, they're famous for a short period of time. They like get a major role in a movie like that, and then you will never see them again. After that. But
Right.
yeah,
Or they a lot of them end up having horribly tragic stories. Yeah, a lot of child actors do not do well in adult life, which is
yeah,
just horrible and sad. But
all sorts of problems, ranging from drugs to their parents stealing all their money to all sorts of like tragic stories. Yeah.
well, there's laws put in place just because of an actual case of that. Do you know about that?
Mm-mm.
The Coogan's law?
Uh,
Oh, well, this is actually a little interesting Hollywood history. Jackie Coogan was the little kid in the Charlie Chaplin movie, The Kid. It's a short film. Charlie Chaplin becomes kind of like a unwitting, like kind of a reluctant dad, adopted dad to this street urchin kid, but then they have like this scam going and stuff like that. Um, where, but Jackie Coogan was doing a ton of different movies, and then his parents were taking all his money, so he ended up having to fight them to uh, get representation through the studio, and eventually they wrote a law using his name that kids in movies have to like have a fund set aside that the parents aren't allowed to touch, that they can have access to when they reach a certain age. Um, and then
fif-
that guy did okay for himself. He ended up playing Uncle Fester on the Adams Family years later. So,
yeah, I guess
interesting arc for him. Yeah,
15%. They have to set aside 15% in their earnings in a trust for child actors. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that law. Signed into law all the way in 1939. But
yeah,
it still happens. And to be honest, 15% is a lot less than what about the other 85%? That's still a lot of money for your parents to or whoever your managers or whoever to keep.
yeah. But at least you don't end up with nothing,
Yeah, that's true.
But um, and if you put it in the right kind of high yield trust fund, maybe maybe it would work. But or make enough money doing it, But I don't know. That's just kind of interesting Hollywood history. I always found that to be kind of an interesting arc for a career, to start out with Charlie Chaplin and kind of end up on the Adams Family, but and to have a law named after you in between.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it's also, I think that one of the problems I've heard, some of like I've heard from some child actors before is like it can also be a problem having too much money. Like these kids like have so much money that they just end up partying and buying drugs and doing all this other
Mhm.
stuff, and that leads to all these problems because they did have all the money and resources to basically do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
You still can't take their money from them, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of unscrupulous people out there that will really just throw their own kid under the bus, which is friggin' horrible, but it's
Yeah, it's
true.
crazy when you hear like a manager that does it that's unrelated, but then you hear like manager like when it's their parent, it's like, really? You just like ripped off your kid? Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Something seriously wrong with those people. So I think Warwick Davis did okay for himself. He really kind of started out with Return of the Jedi and just kept working. And you know, I mean,
He
people
seems
like the Leprechaun movies generally. I think, like, I mean, I don't know if there's huge Leprechaun fans out there or fan clubs, but uh, for my tastes, they're fun. They're fun to watch once in a while. I couldn't watch all of them in a row, so
you could. You could do it. Trust me, it's possible. Uh, oh yeah, see, that's the kind of thing with me with like a lot of movies is like the movie might not win awards or anything, like it may not have the best plot, it may not like even be the greatest movie, but like it can be a fun movie that's like worth watching,
right.
every once in a while. Like there's a lot of movies I watch like where like I'm not gonna be focusing 100% of my attention on the movie anyways, like because I'm doing other stuff that like I'll put on a fun movie like a Leprechaun style movie where it's like I'm not all that worried I'm gonna miss something too crucial if I missed a few minutes of the movie. But yeah, I think they're worth a watch. They're fun, they're entertaining. At
Yeah.
least some of them are. There's some that probably aren't all that great. Like I said, like the second Back to the Hood it's all right, but it's like not as good as the other movies are. Like Leprechaun Origins, like I'm not even sure I'd recommend that movie. Uh, The
Well,
Return, all
you
right.
said they're kind of like the Hopkinsville goblins in
Yeah,
that
they're not
one.
really leprechauns. Like they don't talk. Like they don't wear
Weird.
clothes. Like they're basically just like pointy-eared like goblin creatures like that are like running around. Like I say, it's more of a horror kind of creature, kind of like monster film than it is
Hmm.
like the Leprechaun movies. Like the Leprechaun movies, like the whole thing is like there was that like it's going around killing people kind of element, but they were also comedy. Like there's also jokes and the funny rhymes, and like it wasn't meant to be too serious. Like Leprechaun Origins, like I said, is just more like it's trying to be a scary movie. I think they were trying to reboot the series like into like a more scary movie frame, but yeah, I don't think it
I,
worked.
I don't
That's
see
why
that
they
working.
ultimately
It is.
went to Returns, which tried to be a direct sequel to the original movie. But again, even the original movie is a little different than I think like the later ones. It's like a little different than 2 and 3 and 4.
The first one definitely goes more for atmosphere. I think like
Yeah,
they try to the scary moments are supposed to still be scary, but we're supposed to kind of recognize this is a fun ride overall. We're on a fun like amusement park ride here. This isn't like
yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean I think they really tried on the first one, and then beyond that, the it just steadily goes downhill in the most spectacular way, I think.
Yeah. And
But
and like we mentioned before the first one, bring us Jennifer Aniston, and like what I think was her first like feature film like role when she was quite young.
yeah,
So that's interesting
that's
aspect.
not nothing.
Yeah,
But it was funny that you brought up the comparison of the Hopkinsville goblins, because have you ever seen like the original newspaper reporting about the Hopkinsville case? I'm sure you have because you're like the
probably in
UFO.
one of my threads. My Hopkinsville Goblins case post is like I think one of my largest, if not my largest, like case threads I've got posted. Like it's either that or the Flatwoods Monster. Like it's like so big when you go to Twitter to look at it, you get down to the end of the replies. You got to see more replies a few times to get to all the stuff I've dumped in there. So it's probably somewhere in there. Yeah,
Well, there is the newspaper artist they had at the time was this guy Larry Hill, and like they pulled him in to do a sketch based on what the witnesses said, and his sketch is really just looks like a little leprechaun guy. So it's kind of funny that there's this like this kind of uh, reciprocity between you describing the leprechauns in the movie as being like the goblins and this sketch in the very first reporting on the goblins case looking like a little leprechaun dude.
yeah.
Um, uh, but yeah, I'll for listeners, I'll have to post that picture on Instagram somewhere. But I always love that little sketch because it looks so different from every other picture you've ever seen of the goblins. Because I'm sure the guy that Larry Hill, his job was to do sketches for news stories, mostly sports. He covered a lot of sports on there. So he would do like sports cartoon drawings and things like that. And he actually ended up designing a mascot for one of the college's basketball teams at one point after. So I mean, I can just imagine they're like, Larry, get over here. We need you to sketch this alien creature that these people saw. He's like, what the hell?
I think I remember that sketch now that you mention it. I've
Yeah.
always liked the sketch that they did for the Flatwoods Monster case. Like like that was a big drawing too. Like there's if you look like the original newspaper covers, like for that they show a picture of like Miss May or whatever next to like this drawing, and like it's like an easel board size drawing. Like it's like a big tall drawing they did of like this of the Flatwoods monster. Uh,
Yeah.
I always like
Is
that.
that the drawing where like there's a guy standing next to it for
Yeah,
scale and
yeah,
he's kind of holding up his hand like, what the hell is this thing?
yeah, yeah, yep. Big ass thing.
That's one of my all-time favorite UFO adjacent drawings is just like that is just the expression on the guy's face and the way he's holding his hands. It just
Yeah, there's huge drawings for the hot like that the all that classic drawing like that's yeah that's really cool.
yeah.
I like cases like that like there's some places that have made I collect like what's called designer vinyl toys like Daleks like this like
Hmm.
and there's a company that actually makes things like this for like the Flatwoods Monster and like the Hopkinsville Goblins like basically creatures that like you can collect that I would like to get at some point for those guys.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so a Japanese company, I think that makes these little glass like creatures like that. Like they have like a Pascagoula one, they've got like a Flatwoods one, like a
Oh,
Hopkinsville.
I've seen those ones. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are pretty sweet. Yeah.
I just want a good like George Adamski flying saucer. Like one of those motherships there.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So as far as because you are actually the expert on this at this point, as far as the entire franchise goes, how would you rate Leprechaun 3 in the grand scheme of it all?
I'd say it's up there. It's probably I'd say Leprechauns 3 and 4 are probably the two best out of all eight. Um, I'm not sure which one I'd put first between 3 and 4. Yeah, I kind of like 4, the sci-fi space aspect of it, but
Yeah.
I definitely put it up there as one of the top, probably top 2 of the 8 series franchise.
Yeah. I'd have to agree with you because I'm a sucker for any franchise going to space. Like anytime you've hit space, it seems like there's nowhere else to go. And they often find a way to make more anyway. But yeah, Leprechaun in Space is hilarious and stupid, so I love it.
Yeah, it
But
doesn't make yeah, the whole
this
space
one,
plot is just kind of what does that have to do with anything? But you just go with it because it's fun.
yeah, and but I mean, I think Leprechaun 3 is probably might be the best one. I don't know. It's certainly the most fun. I had more laughs in Leprechaun 3 than any of them that I watched. So yeah,
Yeah, based on the criteria of fun and comedy, I'd say it's the funniest one. It's like the because they like you said, I think we mentioned it. Probably, I think they rhyme. The Leprechaun rhymes the whole movie, like everything he says. Like it's all just
yeah,
like lyrics and stuff, and they're kind of funny. Some of them are kind of crude and over the top kind of rhymes, but it's the
right,
most fun movie, I'd say. Yeah, number 4 isn't as fun, but it's entertaining. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, and every other character in 3 is like a caricature that you don't like. Like you have exactly two likable characters, and they're the ones that survive at the end. Like,
And even then, like their characters are just like I don't know.
they're paper thin. Like they don't have
Yeah, there's
much
not a
to
whole
them.
lot behind them, really. But this is a Leprechaun movie. You don't need character development.
Right. But I mean, everyone else is actively a scoundrel. Like, so even when he goes to the hospital for his leprechaunism,
Yeah,
it's like the doctors are like find the huge wad of cash in his pocket and they talk about running all these tests he doesn't need so that they can keep his money. Uh-oh. I think I lost you. Listeners, this was a sad day. I think the leprechaun has claimed my guest, Jeff Knox. R.I.P. Jeff.
are
It
you
was
there?
Wonderful. Oh, okay, good. I had almost given up hope. I thought the leprechaun got you.
I
Can you
don't
hear
know.
me?
I can hear you fine now. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah. No,
Weird.
the computer screen completely froze, and then uh,
Yeah,
all I
you
could see was all I could see was your arm for a second, and then I assumed that the leprechaun had murdered you, so I was starting to do a eulogy, and then you came back. So I'm glad to see you came back.
yeah, I don't know what's yeah, like your thing froze on my end, but I don't know, maybe it's something I did. For some reason my keyboard is not working, like I can't type anything right now.
Huh.
So that's I was trying to like change the batteries in it, I thought, but I don't know what's going on with it, but maybe it was me.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad the leprechaun hasn't murdered you, but
I've survived. I haven't wished on my golden coin yet, so I haven't called his attention.
oh, all right. Yeah, don't do that. Just keep it on you so he can't hurt you.
That's
Because
fine.
yeah,
I
but he can
found
also
the coin.
find you because you have it.
I found the coin they tossed at the end of the third movie. It
There
was
you
in
go.
it was in the pond out in front of the Bellagio, and I picked it up and took it home.
Yeah, there you go. And someday it will be in space on a ship somewhere.
Apparently, yeah, maybe an astronaut took it with him. Maybe a guy decided that he wanted to be an astronaut, didn't have the qualifications, used the coin to wish for it, went to space. That's how he got there. We'll never
There
know.
you go.
We'll never
Yeah.
know unless they come out with Leprechaun 3.5, where they provide a clue as to how they got to space.
See, that's the thing. We need a 2.5 and a 3.5, and they just need
Yeah.
to be absolutely bonkers and rhyme a whole lot. So
I'm kind of surprised they haven't tried to do a straight remake of like the movies like at this point. There's so much like crap that they've remade. Like kind of surprised that they haven't done a direct remake. I
yeah,
guess maybe that's what they were trying to reboot it with the Origins thing, but that wasn't really a remake. That was kind of like a whole new deal.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Would you
Oh
even want
well.
them to remake it? Would you?
No, I mean that's
Yeah,
the thing. It's like
yeah,
I don't like remakes in general because it's like it
yeah.
was a time and a place, man. It was a vibe. Like 1993, this movie is going straight to home video, and like home video isn't even really a concept now. It's we get
Straight to
straight to
streaming.
streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got. But
And I don't even think these movies could get made these days. Like, I just don't think anyone would fund that for one. And two, like, I just, there's a lot of movies that, like, they could even make, say, 15 years ago that, like, they wouldn't make now, just like because of, things just aren't considered politically correct or okay to do in movies a lot of the times
right, right.
anymore. Right. Like the movie Tropic of Thunder, right? Like, they'd never make that movie again these days. Like,
Well,
that
I'm kind of surprised they made it when they did. I mean, it just
yeah,
it was
because that
yeah,
was what 2008, like, and they
right,
still made a movie with a guy in blackface. But
yeah.
yeah,
I think that was part of the gag. I never actually watched that movie, so I don't really know, but yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what direct to video was like tricking people into buying the movie because the physical purchase was like the whole point of it. So as long as you could put like a recognizable name on it, it didn't matter what the content of the movie was because you're not trying to drive people to the theater.
well, that's why you would get direct to video movies, like, and you look at the box and they've got some big name guy in it, and then you watch the movie and the guy's in it for like 20 seconds. Like, they had a
Right.
cameo with him, and they basically just used him to sell this like video off on people to hawk it off at the video stores. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I bought so many collections that were basically the same movies that had their copyright expired, but like they lured me in with like one movie that sounded like really good, and then I'm like, "Oh man, it's just a bunch of movies I already have."
Yeah,
So,
like
yeah.
I got a bunch of those things, like those, like they have 'em, like the $5 bins at like
Yeah.
Walmart or like the grocery store, like 20 sci-fi movies on DVD. And it's like and there's like a stack of DVDs in there with like a bunch of movies on each DVD.
Yep.
I buy those and watch those just 'cause, but
Yeah, me too. And to the point where like I'd be watching Mystery Science Theater. I'm like, oh, I remember this movie. Wait, did I see this episode of Mystery Science Theater, or did I just watch the movie? I don't know how many people that's true for, but there's a hell of a lot of those episodes that I'm like, oh no, I've just seen the movie. I actually haven't seen this episode. But
I'm convinced some of these straight to video movies, though, particularly these days, are just money laundering vehicles. Like, I don't know how some of these movies get like made. Like, even a cheap movie, like, still costs these places like a few million to pop out. Like, even
mhm,
like these like generic, like, like a company called The Asylum does all these like knockoff films. Like, so like for Transformers, they had Transmorphers. Um,
yeah,
and even those, like, cost a few million at least, like, make and like put out. But some of these movies I watch these days, like particularly the ones you get like where they bring in like these old actors that just don't have a whole lot of a career anymore, like Bruce Willis, for example, is putting out
yeah,
like 10 straight to video like movies a year, that are the most generic like crime flicks like ever made, and they basically all film them at the same time. Like if you watch the movies, like if you binge them like I will, you can see like they shot the same scenes for these different movies at the exact same time in the same locations, and like later on they just kind of edit them together into like these different movies that they release. um
yeah,
and some of them I don't see how they're like viable business like investments like in these films that like people make. Some of these straight to videos I watch, like, yeah, I swear they're just passion projects of some rich guy. They found some rich guy to like produce like their their hobby script,
mm,
and like they had these things made up and then they put them out to like straight to video. But yeah, I don't see how some of these end up making their money, to be honest.
yeah. It's mystifying.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the process myself, but
Yeah.
um, that is that kind of stew that sometimes allows for something really fabulous to happen. Though I think where it's so bad, not just like so bad it's good. It's just like everybody involved is just throwing shit against the wall to see if it sticks. And
Yeah.
you have these little moments in these movies where you're like, what am I watching?
Yeah. There's quite a few movies like that. Like I just watched a new Bill Murray movie with Ed Harris in it, and like that one lady from American Pie, the MILF mom,
Yeah,
what her name was. And like that's another movie. I'm just like, how did this movie even get made? Like you got all these like actors that had some pretty big careers, like, and but this movie's just like it's not much of a plot. Like, what? Who
right.
greenlit this? Like, how'd they get these guys involved in it? Like, yeah, I don't know. Movies sometimes confuse me, but sometimes you just got to suspend all that disbelief and try and enjoy a silly movie. And that's the thing about me is like, I'm, I guess you could say I'm easily entertained. I'll watch just about anything. Um,
Yeah,
you mentioned there's a Discord where we hang out. Pretty much all you got to do is mention a movie, and I'll be like, "Oh, I'll watch that," and I'll go watch it.
yeah.
So I'll watch pretty much anything and can entertain myself with pretty much anything, even the most awful like movies, because I can find entertainment in the awful ridiculousness of the movie. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The only thing that sucks is if it's just boring. Like I just don't like that's the only way you can go wrong there. But
yeah,
even then, like you said, if you just want to do other things and have it on in the background, like who cares? But
and that's the thing with me. I've
yeah,
usually got other stuff going on I'm doing like while I'm watching a movie, so it's a little boring. That's all right. I've
yeah,
been known specifically to put something on that I know is going to be too boring for me to pay attention to because I need to get real work done and I don't want to distract myself. But I'm kind of like I have like sleeping disorders, and so like if I don't have a lot of things like going on at the same time, like I get really tired and just kind of like pass out. So like I've got to like keep my mind constantly busy with stuff. So like I've always got like TV or something going on while I'm working, but I will put on boring stuff intentionally so I'm not distracted too much by it while I do my work.
there you go. Yeah. I enjoy that myself. Sometimes if I'm trying to write, it's like I'll like try to encourage my wife to watch a TV show that I don't care about. So that she'll be entertained by it. I'm just like, "No, I just need something going on. Something needs to be happening in the background. So
Sometimes I'm surprised though. Like I'll tell you, I put on a Wes Anderson movie, the what's the one, the hotel one, the Grand Budapest Hotel.
yeah,
Um, Years ago, I put it on because I thought it was going to be boring, like, and I didn't want to pay attention to it. And I was actually trying to read a UFO book. I was like, I'm going to put this on so I can get some reading done. I didn't end up reading a page of the book because I like the movie so much. Like, so there's times I'll
yeah.
put in a movie I think is going to be stupid, and I'm completely shocked by like how amazing it is, and end up paying attention to the whole thing and not getting any work done. It just kind of
Well,
depends.
that's the thing is you can't trust people too, because I feel like a lot of people really didn't like that one.
Yeah,
So they got
I,
a
I
lot.
liked it, but yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if that influenced your judgment about it beforehand, where you thought it would be boring because somebody else had said it was or something. Because I
Uh,
remember a lot of Wes Anderson fans. I think that was kind of one of the movies where they just kind of started dropping off from.
yeah. Well, I think I watched a trailer, and I thought like, I don't know. Like I wasn't really at the time, I hadn't watched a lot of like Wes Anderson films, to be honest. And like he's kind of got his own kind of like style, his kind of stylistic thing. And I wasn't sure I was going to be into it, but after I watched that, I watched more of his stuff, and I was like, oh, actually, I like this quite a bit. I like a lot of the stuff he does. So,
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I mean, a lot of people do.
but
People like him,
But
but
then there's people will
uh,
praise the movie too. They'll be like, "Oh my God, this is the most amazing movie ever." And so I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna go watch that." And I go watch it, and I'm just like, "What?
yeah, I
That
mean,
movie was
that's what
horrible."
I'm really getting at is that like a lot of stuff that everybody loves, I just don't get, or and I hate to say it's bad. I mean, I don't want to like crap on anybody's favorite movie, but there's a lot of things that are super popular that it's just not for me, as I'm not the audience for it, and it's um, and then there's a lot of movies that people hated that I love. So I mean, maybe I just have bad taste. Sorry for wasting everyone's time that's listening to this show. I just have bad taste, I guess.
Hey, well, that's people can like what they like to like. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Their own opinions about movies, and people are gonna like different things. Like there's like I say, I'll watch pretty much anything. Like I'll watch pretty much any genre of movie, but there's still genres that like I prefer over other genres. Like I'll even
Hmm.
watch a rom-com, like, but that's not like my favorite kind of movie to watch. Like it's not what I'd pick up off the top of like the hat if I wanted to go pick a movie to watch. But yeah,
Yeah.
different movies for different people, and that's fine. Not everybody has to like a movie, and not everybody has to hate a movie. Like you said,
Yeah.
there's a lot of movies that people think like suck that I actually think are pretty cool or great. Like so, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I guess just ultimately, like, if I look up a movie, I rarely ever look at reviews. Like, I don't look at like the Rotten Tomatoes score that often, unless I'm just like morbidly curious about it.
yeah.
But
I
it,
never looked up
it
a
it
review.
doesn't influence my opinion of whether I'm going to watch a movie or not. Usually, because I'm like, I don't really care what people think. I want to, like,
Yeah,
I
I'll,
don't know.
I'll watch a trailer. Like I'll watch a trailer. I won't like I don't read reviews really. Like
Right.
I don't really care what other people say because, like I said, quite frankly, a lot of reviews like they'll bash a movie that I think is great, or they'll think a movie's amazing that I thought was like the most boring like movie I'd ever seen. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't really care what reviewers have to say about movies, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Me either. Especially since it's not even just critics anymore. It's like just anybody, like everybody on the internet. So
Yeah, that's
I don't think
pretty
I've heard enough opinions from everybody on the internet for one lifetime.
that's pretty much all. That's where I'll get movie opinions from. The only time I'll see people's opinions is when they're talking about it like on Twitter or Facebook or something. But like professional reviewers, people that actually like review movies, like I've got no interest in that. And and I don't even really like I don't seek out even normal people's opinions. It's just what gets shoved in my feed. What the
Right.
algorithms put before my eyes and force me to read. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we could probably start winding down now. If people want to find you online and all of your wonderful UFO posts and everything, how do they go about doing that?
So you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Jeff Knox. And you can find me on Facebook under Jeff Knox, or you can find me on Blue Sky again under Mr. Jeff Knox. I put all my posts there every single day. Again, you can find me. I'm part of the UFO Sunset show that I do with my wonderful co-host Rachel. That you can find us on YouTube under UFO Sunset. And we also have a WordPress blog that I believe is ufosunset.wordpress.com, where you can kind of read the show notes and kind of like an article version of the lectures I've given on various cases on our show there.
Cool. Awesome. What how many of those are there? Did you do like a lot of the case lectures, or
Um, there's
I'm aware of a
there's
few at
like
least, but
I don't know if the WordPress blog has everything. So like when we first started doing the show, I was originally not doing as in-depth stuff. I would basically be covering, because we were when we first started going, we were doing it every single week. And so I would basically be covering some of the cases from history from that last week. And so there's not really drawn out transcripts or articles for like that stuff. But back at the beginning of last year or so, or maybe a little before that, I started to focus more on in-depth studies of an individual case. And so there's, I don't know, 9 or 10 or a dozen or something like that of in-depth lectures I've given on like specific cases, like ranging from like a case in Emerson, Poland, like I did a thing on. I did the Joe Pancake case. I've got a lecture on there. There's a case in France on balance all I did a lecture on. So there's there's several of them right now. I'm working on my next one is going to be on UFO sightings that kind of look like barbells or dumbbells, basically like two spheres connected, like with a bar between them. And so I'm going
awesome.
to be covering a variety of cases that kind of fit that mold. So that's what I'm working on now, and hopefully we're going to be recording that episode, and that should be up in about maybe a month, I hope. I want to say.
Yeah.
So
Or since time isn't real, maybe around the time this comes out.
yes. Oh, so
All right. Well, I very much appreciate you coming on to talk Leprechaun with me, and I congratulate you once again on completing the Leprechaunathon, because it is no small achievement. I'm really deeply impressed at your fortitude here.
it's, that I watched them not only once, but I watched 3 again after you asked me to be on last week. And then I watched them again, 2 of them again today. I've
Yeah.
been doing my Leprechaun homework, so
Yeah. Well, you're a madman. You're a madman, Mr. Knox.
I've got a hard head, is what people tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hold on to that gold coin, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Nice being on.
All right.